Sayasat has worked for government state of Iowa, US. Then he was a director in Institution of Public Policy here. He is currently managing director of International Center for Finance, Astana International Center for Finance. Is it an arm of?
No, it was my former job. Right now I work for a company called BTS Digital. So I switched to private sector.
Yeah, so even while we were talking, he was changing his job.
Good one. Yeah.
Kazakhstan is a fast-growing economy in this region at least, and Astana is the fastest-growing capital. But however, from a standpoint of a foreigner and the little experience I have in Kazakhstan, I feel that Kazakhstan economy is over-dependent on its natural resources. What about the greenfield projects, or what about the development of other industries like IT industry, let's say?
Right. I mean, we made all the possible mistakes a country rich with resources can make. Dutch disease, resources curse, call it oil curse, call it whatever you want. But majority of countries who are rich in minerals and resources, they all make the same mistakes. And it's so stupid, but as if these mistakes are inevitable. So we made all these mistakes, and we have to admit that. The Dutch disease is there. The 80% of economy depends on mining and oil and gas. So basically, our major business is extract resources, process them, and sell them abroad.
Which properly lease the resources is your major business. Not even extract yourself.
Yes. So at least there are three major problems with the current economic model. One. It's mega problem. It's a mega trend. It's not our own problem. If you look at the global economy in the last 15 years, there's been a major shift. For the first time in the history of humankind, the material assets, uranium, ore, oil and gas, wheat, grain, everything material, costs less than non-material intellectual assets, like ideas, patents, technologies. I mean, if you look at the top 5 most valuable companies in the world, 15 years ago it was GE, General Electric, it was Walmart, City Corporation, 3M, I think, these big corporations, Chevron, Microsoft was one of the first newcomers to this big boys club. 15 years later, you take the end of 2018 last year, you see that the top most valuable companies are all intellectual companies, high-tech companies. There's Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Google, Microsoft. Now Facebook is kind of losing the edge. The Tencent, the Chinese are coming on. And if you look, for the first time in human history, non-material assets, intellectual assets, proprietary assets, intellectual property costs more than material assets, than normal assets. To give you one example, we have a national company called Kazakh and a national nuclear company. They are producing more uranium ore than any other country and company in the world, 28,000 tons per year. We are #1. They're a global leader in producing uranium ore. They went to IPO last year, end of last year, beginning of this year, and the company valuation was $3 billion.
$3 billion?
$3 billion. Nothing. Like pocket change. We go to NASDAQ, all these Snapchat, WhatsApp, $20 billion, $24 billion. Jesus H. Christ. I mean, you were producing in a very environmentally hazardous material. It's very dirty production, more radiation. You have a company of 23,000 people. You produce more uranium ore than anyone in the world. You export it, you transport it, and it's very, it's a very dangerous business.
Correct.
You can't just go on and walk and say, "You want some uranium?" I have a good discount. I mean, it's all regulated by UN, international nuclear agency, whatever. And you only weigh $3 billion, nothing.
Now, tell me, Sayasat, you had, as you were speaking, you had a diverse experience.
Yes.
You were in HR, you had in finance, you were a youth leader, you are an interviewer, journalist. What has been your most fulfilling experience so far? And another question, in addition to that, why have you been changing your sphere so often?
Well, there were several reasons, formal and informal, so to speak, objective and subjective. So the formal reason, when government used to send all these student scholars to study abroad, they would come back and they would bring them to government, they'd bring them to public service. So I spent about 13 years in public service. And they would rotate these people in different spheres, in different fields. So apart from that, I was in party, for example, in our ruling party leadership. I was running a research think tank. Nurotan Party, right. So then I was in administration to president, HR policy, one of the largest government asset management company called Kazakh. I was head of the executive director for HR policy. Then the Bolshak program, the governor. I used to work for a city government, aided the governor of the largest city, Almaty, the former capital of Kazakhstan. So government was planning to build new layer batch of public managers who would have different experiences, who would see different fields and arms of government and public service, who would have like what we call a cross-functional. They would try to build cross-functional teams. So they would toss people both vertically, top level, central, federal government level, and then bring them down to municipal level, and then take them from one field to another field. So it would have cross-functional experience. So that was formal part of that. Informal, my subjective thing was I really wanted to have better understanding of how government works. I mean, you could build a horizontal career sitting in one place, in one agency, in one ministry, and doing 10, 15 years of...
Correct.
I had an ambition to understand government as a whole, how it works. And mostly the problem with our government was that there were many Soviet people still, and the inertia of Soviet management model was still there. So in my 13 years in public service career, I've changed jobs about 10 times. Okay. Different sectors, different fields. But that gave me a very good cross-functional understanding how the whole government works. The vertical, horizontal ties, the silos, the logic behind the decisions, and inefficiencies, discrepancies, problems, weak points.
So which role was the most fulfilling?
But the most fulfilling area, and I'm still in that area now, and I'm more or less clear now, is education. Education is the key to all the problems we have and all the wins and loses we have and losses we have. We were quite strong. We had very solid background in education, thanks to Soviet Union again. I mean, we have to admit that. A lot of people swear, and curse Soviet Union, but there were some really good things connected with Soviet Union. So education was part of them.
Tell me, you have been in public policy. What is the fundamental tenet of public policy here? Distributive, redistributive?
Well, one of my favorite theories it's institutional theory. There was this great book written like 4 years ago, Why Nations Fail, Dado Najimamu. You might have heard about them. It was quite popular. It's still being discussed. Where the authors of that book, one is Harvard professor, one is MIT professor, Dado Najimamu, the famous economics professor, they argue that institutions, strong, transparent, solid, just institutions, they provide platform for countries' sustainable development and growth. we don't have rules of the game, clear, objective rules of the game, that's when you might become a failed state. So I think one of the biggest failures we had in these 30 years of our independence, we're still struggling to build these strong institutions.
Your 3 children?
Yes.
Would you like them to join government or politics?
Oh, really? No. No. My personal experience, 13 years of my career in public service, taught me one thing, and the best thing, this American expression: if you want to retain respect for sausages and politics, never watch women making. Never watch women making. I'm going to tell you a joke. It's an old Soviet joke.
Yeah.
You know Nikita Khrushchev,
sure.
communist leader. He went to America.
Okay.
It was a historic visit, 1989, 59. He went to the United States. It was the first visit of a Soviet leader to America, to the United States. So there's a political joke anecdote.
Okay.
So John Kennedy was a president. He invites him to his house. It's a non-formal meeting, dinner.
Okay.
It's the best things, the best American whiskey, the best food. You know, Cuban cigars were prohibited back then. So they stand there after the dinner, and Nikita says, "Wow, John, this is the best dinner I ever had in my life. Ever. Look, it's not a prodigal thing, where'd you get money?" And he says, "Oh, and they're in DC, and do you see the Potomac River? Yes. Do you see this beautiful big bridge over it? Yeah. So when I was a senator, I was lobbying that construction company. They paid me really well, so I can afford it."
Yeah.
So then John flies to Moscow. So Nikita, he wants to, to impress him. The best things you could get in Soviet Union: the black caviar, red caviar, everything is good. So they're standing on the balcony and says, "Wow, Nikita, I've never had a dinner like this in my life. I mean, I never thought I would eat caviar by large spoons. Jesus H. Christ, where'd you get money when it's not the fish food? Oh, did you see the Moscow River? Yeah. Do you see this huge, beautiful bridge over it? No. That's the money." So instead, I wish my children would be researchers, scientists. You know, when you were a scientist, you do research. Wow. They all speak English and Turkish and Russian and Kazakh and Arabic.
And Chinese?
Not Chinese, but we're going to start with Chinese. Because they say optimists, they learn English, but realists, they learn Chinese. It's becoming very important. And I make a strategic mistake in my life, actually. All the languages I speak are mostly European. Because 30 years ago, when I was a young kid, when I started learning languages 20 years ago, I thought, oh, that's where the future is. Europe, America, the science, technology, new ideas, they all come from that part of the world. So I have to learn their languages, I have to learn their ways. Now, when this shift towards Asia, my dean, who was a former dean of Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, Kishore Mahbubani, Tamil Indian, but he's Singaporean. But he came from India. They were Tamil Indians. They came with British and they stayed. So there's a group of Indians living, and Singaporean Indians. So he was a personal assistant secretary to Lee Kuan Yew himself. He was dean of Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy. He wrote a book called The New Age of Asian Hemisphere, and where he beautifully articulates and argues why the pendulum, the historic pendulum, which was in Europe, now goes back to Asia. Because Asia, that's where the future is. Truly, it's an Asian age is coming. Why? And the reason is very simple. Think of billions of people in Asia, in India, in China, in Vietnam, and in Thailand. Billions of people who were switched off education, who didn't have proper access to good education, to technology, to connectivity, mobility. And then, thanks to their governments, all of a sudden they had access to good level education, to communication. And look at India. Wow, it's booming, the mobile technology. To China, 5G, to Bangladesh. Bangladesh is next outsourcing IT power hub. I mean, it's huge things happening out there. So whenever all of a sudden billions of people are now able to see more, understand more, talk more, share more, they have access to information. Whoa, very different level game. It's a very different game. Yeah, and so like 50 years ago, competition was going between maybe 500 million people, educated people. Were mostly concentrated in Europe and North America. Now, global, the true competition is coming, because now billions of these Asian people living in the east side of the world are now connected, and they can share, they can speak up their mind, they can write books, they can write articles, they can produce new knowledge. So that's going to be a game changer. The whole thing, the competition, the true global competition is only beginning. So I would trade all my European languages for Chinese now. Just like, oh, come on, let's trade it, keep the change. Because it's becoming important. And I tried to learn it on my own, not really difficult. You got to be in the language and learn.
Got it. Now, what has been your personal takeaway from interviewing Juan Santos, the Colombian president, Nobel laureate?
Yeah, well, it was recently.
Yeah.
Pakistan Economic Forum.
Correct.
So they asked me to interview the former president of Colombia. I wish we had leaders like him in Kazakhstan. I really liked him. I mean, there's this great thing, quote from our national leader, at the beginning of last century, in the 1920s, Ali Khan. He was this last democratically elected ruler of Kazakhstan. He was killed by Stalin. All of them, all the government, it was collapsed. There was a big political power, wiped out by Stalin. So he said, to serve your nation, to rule your nation, you don't need knowledge, you need will, character. So in politics, character is more important than knowledge, because it's about making very strong, very difficult decisions. And it doesn't take knowledge sometimes. It takes your heart, it takes character. It's like if you read Bushido, it's Japanese famous code for warrior code. Bushi, warrior do, path of warrior. There are 4 things a true warrior must practice. One thing is martial arts, because it trains your willpower.
Kaizen.
Yeah. 2, art, because it brings out the subtle things in you, your heart. Because yes, you have to make a decision to take one's life, and you don't have to hesitate to kill someone. But then you always need heart, because if only killing, it will, make heart, cold stove. I mean, you will be thinking in terms of you not be human.
Humanizing the world.
So drawing, yes, it kind of brings good in you. Arts always bring beauty. It looks you look at word in different eyes. So that's a balancing thing. 4, 3 is calligraphy, meditation, acting. So you have to be calm. You have to strip yourself of emotion. And only in the end, number 4 comes knowledge. You have to read books. So before knowledge, you need to have clear mind, strong will, and heart.
That's it.
So what I've seen all these traits in this guy, that is Colombian. He had very clear, he exactly knew how to do it. He's very strong. I mean, going and talking, negotiating with the guerrillas, his Colombian drug cartels, and killing people in hundreds. And he would he faced them open. He's being attacked. There were a lot of suicide attempts. Assassination attempts on his life. He knew he would be killed. He could be killed. But he has courage. He has will. And then when a lot of these FARC guys, the army, the guerrilla guys, were arrested or taken prisoners, he still had heart. He treated them really well.
With respect, he said.
With respect, he treated them really well. They were put in camps, they were not beaten and tortured. And that was one of the greatest things when the word spread. A lot of these FARC guys said, why would I fight this? I'll just go and surrender. He's a good guy.
Correct.
Yeah. And then he was knowledgeable. You look at his education, he went to Harvard, London School of Economics. Oh, God, man, he's a very good educational background. He's very fluent in English, he studied in the US. You look, Tufts University in Boston, Harvard, London School of Economics. Ooh, I mean, no. And he's very articulate. He's in economics by training. So I see very good qualities, and I wish we had leaders like him in our country. Ooh. I'd say three things. One is passion. One thing I've learned in all the years of experience I had is you could be a very knowledgeable person. You can have a lot of experience. You can have the best education. And I've seen a lot of managers who are very, intellectual, a lot of experience. But when they lack passion, nothing happens. Nothing. And I've seen some uneducated people, like look at Sundar Pichai. Yeah. He was born in Chennai, no computer, no mobile, nothing. Okay. And then one day he goes to that school and he sees computer. Okay. And then he's passionate about it. He's, wow, the technology can change my life. Yeah. And look at him now. He's the CEO of the largest, richest IT powerhouse in the world. He's CEO of Google. Okay. So, being a National Geographic Goodwill Ambassador, we decided not to pursue any political agenda in Kazakhstan. But there's one issue we really decided to push, is plastic. It's becoming a global problem. Plastic is becoming a huge problem. 2 weeks ago, they went down to Marion Trench, the deepest point, and they went to the deepest point of Marion Trench. Well, you know what they found there?
Wow.
Plastic bag. They found plastic bag in the deepest part of Marion Trench. It's becoming a huge problem. And our lives are becoming plastic. That's the comparison I always make to my students. If you look plastic, it's odorless, you can't smell it. It's transparent, okay, you can see through it. It's durable. It's very useful. Yeah, it's durable, odorless. Our lives are becoming plastic. We are satisfied with what we are now. Making an impact. If you are making an impact on your surroundings, you're making the lives of other people better. You help them, you guide them, you help them to avoid mistakes, for example, or make better chances for their education. And I've done a lot of thousands of people would approach me and say, I want to pursue an education. What do you think? And I help them really, I've designed my own way, okay, so we do sort of personal coaching thing. So we look in their lives, the perspectives, what they want to do in their lives, which university. And I help thousands of young people to go and study abroad as well. So in a way, it's the amount of positive vibrations you emit in this life to change people's lives, to give more meaning to their lives. I think that's the true, the good at living the life, the quality of life. That for me, it's my calling. Right.
Excellent.
Good.
Thank you so much for your time, Sayasat. It has been amazing. I mean, you're really an eye-opener. I'm not just saying because I have to say this, but you're really an eye-opener.